Welcome to the Local Domination Podcast, your ultimate guide to get local clients fast. Featuring interviews with local marketing and lead generation experts who will show you exactly how to attract local clients and dominate your market. And now, here's your host, Doran Aldana.
All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Local Domination Podcast, your ultimate guide to getting local clients fast. And I am your host, Doran Aldana, coming at you with another kick-ass episode. And today is certainly no exception to the theme of awesomeness we've been bringing at you. I've got the one, the only, Jon Dwoskin and Scott Fishman. And these dudes are absolute phenoms when it comes to sales. And these are not theoretical sales preachers and teachers. These are guys who've been in the trenches on the front lines of capitalism making things happen. And they've got the scars to prove it. So they're going to be bringing to you pure sales nectar, straight from the streets, from the guys who got their feet in the streets, making things happen on a day-to-day basis, and all things sales related in terms of how to overcome objections, how to build trust, how to build rapport, how to diagnose and turn that conversation into having someone enrolled and having someone pull the trigger on what it is you have to offer and move forward. Because you absolutely, if you're in business, you have something that you are bringing to the marketplace that is of service to humanity, and it doesn't do anybody any good if you suck at sales. So therein lies the reason why we're having a conversation with Jon and Scott today. So Scott and Johnny, welcome to the call.
Thanks for having us.
Hey.
Thanks, Doran. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. So why don't we kick things off with a little intro from you guys for those who aren't familiar with who you are. Maybe just a quick skinny on who you are, how you got into sales, how you got to be wicked effective in the arena of sales such that now you're starting to raise other people up to mastery in the sales arena. Maybe just a little background for us. Who wants to go first?
Yes, you can go first.
All right, thanks. So, I think I've been in sales since, I'm 46 years old now. I've been in sales since high school. I've grown into it. I've watched my father. He was a salesman, and I just watched what he did, and he was amazing at just making people feel good and making people feel good about the decisions that they were making, and he was helping them come to grips with. And it just blew me away watching this man do what he did and do it in such a high-level way. And I followed in his footsteps. I wanted to do that myself. And I started in high school doing, selling. I worked at a record store, and I was the top salesperson there when I was like the youngest guy working there, and just moved all the way up through college, after college. Obviously, my first job was in sales, and I fell in love with it. I started selling tax-sheltered annuities, and then got into the mortgage game and didn't look back. And one of the things I love about it is that I get to help people every single day while helping myself and feeding my family. So it's a wonderful business.
Yeah, you got to love it when you can serve others, make a meaningful difference in people's lives, and get paid at the same time. It's the ultimate win-win. It's the only way it should be. So you got to love it when you get that dialed in. And for those who are listening, another little added note that Scott probably should have told you, but I didn't prompt him to, so we'll forgive him just this once, is that he's also an author. He's got an awesome book called the Sell Smarter Collection. So you definitely want to look into that. Go to Amazon and hook yourself up with some badass sales material, the Sell Smarter Collection. So that's awesome, Scott. Jon, hit us up with your background.
So I worked through high school a little bit and college at random sales jobs, and was always self-studying a lot of sales information. My dad, when I was 18 years old, gave me a set of tape sets. And he told me, if you study people like Brian Tracy and of the likes of that type of those types of people, you'll learn more from those people than you will college. I became obsessed with just learning all about them and everything they had to teach, and just kind of self-studied it through college. And when I graduated college, I started an internet company in mid-1995. I led the sales and grew the sales department, along with really kind of running the business plan for the company, and grew that company. Ultimately, sold it to a Silicon Valley company, and then got into doing sales, selling apartment buildings in Michigan, and became a top apartment broker, and then ultimately ended up doing other things with my company and running my office in Detroit, and then helping restructure some companies as well before starting my own company, which is a business coach, growing companies, managers, and salespeople.
Awesome. And from what I understand, you are the powerhouse business coach behind the Jon Dwoskin experience. And that sounds like a pretty sexy combination of words, the Jon Dwoskin experience.
Yeah, that is my company. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So we're going to learn more about that experience, I'm sure, in one way or the other on this podcast episode. And you guys also have your own podcast, which is why we got you joined at the hip, doing the tandem trio, not the Three Stooges, but the Three Musketeers or something like that today, with both of you on at once. Normally I interview one person at a time, but we got the duo, the dynamic duo today. So tell us about your podcast so people can hook that up as well.
Yeah, well, we started a podcast a couple years ago. John and I, it was a crazy situation. We actually were going to write a book, believe it or not, and we started that process, and it's not that easy writing a book. We started putting pen to paper, and we just didn't get very far. We both kind of hit the speed bump at the same time. So I called Jonathan, and we decided that maybe it was easier if we just started a podcast, because we obviously can talk. We've known each other for 30 plus years. It's not difficult to get a conversation going, and we grew it from there. And John, you have anything to fill in with this?
What's the name of it?
It's called the 7-Minute Sales Minute. It's every week or every other week we're talking sales and giving salespeople tips and everyday things that they can do to grow their game, grow their business, grow their pipeline. And we've had great feedback, and it's been a ton of fun doing it.
So I'm assuming, since you have minute in the title twice, that it only lasts a minute. Is that right?
Well, initially we were going to have it where it was just a 7-minute podcast, but we kind of, I don't know, it's anywhere between 7 and 15-ish minutes.
So you're under-promising and over-delivering. Is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly.
Every time.
Take note, ladies and gentlemen, take note. A little secret sauce to sales as well as retention and repeat business is under-promise, over-deliver. So there you go. They've had that inextricably linked with their brand from day one, apparently. So let's talk about sales, gentlemen. Tell me about what every business owner, every salesperson needs to know about sales that most salespeople or dabblers in sales have no clue about. Let's look at some common myths, some common misconceptions that have people shoot themselves in the proverbial foot when it comes to their sales efforts, that actually are counterproductive, that actually repel sales, and they don't even know it. Maybe give us a few of those misconceptions and myths right off the bat.
Well, I'll tell you, the very first thing I always go over with anybody that I'm coaching or anyone I'm working with is open your ears. I think in sales, one of the things that we tend to do, which is a myth, that we have to talk and we have to over talk and we have to keep going and we have to put on our dog and pony show, but we're never actually listening to what our prospects have to say or why they're even sitting across from us or on the phone with us to begin with. We're too busy showing them our products and showing them the whole bag of tricks. We don't actually listen to find out what the problem is that they are trying to solve by speaking with us.
That is so true. And I think oftentimes too, especially when we're new to sales or we're new to the sales environment we're in, naturally we can move into a nervous energy a lot of times, especially if you're not doubling down on mindset work and getting your mindset on point. And so the natural reaction is to slip into potty mouth, just showing up and throwing up and giving a data dump and talking and blabbering. And that is so true. Telling is not necessarily selling, but asking questions, listening, and really finding out what's the pain and then leading them out of that pain into the pleasure. That's where the sales nectar really is. That's where the breakthrough is. But so often people overlook that, and they don't have a structure for asking the right questions. So why don't we look at that? Like if someone wanted to really be proficient and move towards mastery in the area of listening, how can they create a structure around that, a system around that, to be able to take more market share, improve their enrollment rate, their sales rate, and really dominate their company or their industry without necessarily getting any more leads, but just converting more of those leads into sales? What are some of the things they'd want to think about in being able to structure the right questions in the right way, in the right sequence, so that it comes across as genuine and builds rapport as opposed to interrogation that repels and breaks rapport?
I think, Doran, that the most important thing is I don't think there's one structure that fits all. I think it has to be customized to each individual salesperson. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is the different salespeople get stuck at different parts of the sales continuum. And a lot of times, one of the things I see is that salespeople get stuck at around the second or third question, and they don't know where to transition and take the conversation from that point forward. Mm-hmm. And so where it really takes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions, they get stumped, and then they begin talking about themselves. And then it goes nowhere quickly. Mm-hmm. And so I think really understanding that it's a game of questions, and like you and Scott were talking about listening, the best questions come from what was just said, and layering one thought on top of the other and keeping it fluid. And so the key, I think, is for salespeople to commit to role-playing and executive time and role-playing what they need to work on every single day, whether it be for 15 or 30 minutes. So they're practicing before they get on the call instead of practicing only on the call. And I see that as a big mistake. They'll talk about things in theory, but they don't practice. And because they don't practice, they get stumped up. And then they don't hit their metrics, their KPIs, whatever any company is calling the specific and measurable activities. Mm-hmm. But that is key. You got to commit to the growth of the skill of sales, and that starts with not only prepping and studying, but role playing on a daily basis.
Right. I think I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Most people are dabblers. Most people are mediocre, and they're just surviving instead of thriving because they don't really commit to mastery. They just kind of dabble. They just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. They just wing it. They just hope, wish, and pray that they can make some more sales, but they don't really have a structure, a system, a formula that they commit to and commit to mastery with. Would you guys concur with that?
Yes,
definitely.
I imagine that's one of the things that you guys, as you teach and bring the gospel of better sales to the marketplace. That's the biggest difference between the top dogs making, the top 1% income earners and the mediocre majority. Is the top dogs, they treat it like a craft. I mean, they're not just trying to, kind of get a feel for the formula. They're mastering that formula. They're not just trying to get a feel for maybe what questions to ask and what sequence. They can do it in their freaking sleep because they've practiced and honed and committed to the mastery process. So can you tell us about how someone who's in the sales game right now, who's looking at where they're at with their current results, and then they're looking at the gap between where they are and where they want to be. They're looking at their bank account and they're seeing that's not, where I want to be, or they're seeing, hey, it's great, but I want to go higher. And then they're looking at the gap from where they are now and where they want to be. What would you speak to in terms of the top 1, 2, or 3 things that they need to really be focusing on to bridge that gap, to go from where they are to where they want to be as it relates to sales?
Well, a couple things. I think just layering off of what you just talked about, Doran, you need to look at your business like a business. So it's very typical. I find that salespeople, they think of themselves as a salesperson selling the product at the company that they're at, and that the company has a vision and a business plan, et cetera, but they don't have their own. It's very important for salespeople to run their business as if it is their own individual business. Mm-hmm. And that is a very important element. On top of that, when you run your own business, you have an idea of all of the metrics and the income and expenses and everything that run your business day-to-day basis, as well as your stats year over year. So it's so common. I'll talk to a salesperson. I'll say, hey, how many, of this or that did you do last year and the year before? And what were your revenues? And what were your year over year? And where were the percentage of your clients coming from? They don't know the answers to that. And so in order to forecast, you got to know where you've been. And part of a full business plan is understanding where you've been so you can forecast where you want to go, and then reverse engineer all the details and the ratios and the metrics to make more money. And so if you know how many calls it took to do X, or how many marketing flyers it took to get Y, and what it took to convert a prospect to a prospect to a client, then at that point it's a numbers game and you know what to do. But there's got to be a plan, a full detailed business plan, looking at every nuance of your business, and have the goal in mind, and then reverse engineer, and then set the details, do what needs to be done, and if you don't do it, course correct for the next day. Scott, any thoughts?
I think you're hitting the nail on the head, John. And when you're breaking down these metrics and you're figuring out which metric you need to work on, find the one that is the turbo button, for lack of a better term, the one that actually gives you the most bang for your buck. For instance, just making dials, if you're making a certain number of dials in order to set a certain number of appointments, the appointments are the most important thing. The dials are not, because you have to make X number of dials. You're not getting the bang for the buck if you're just getting better at dialing the phone. That's not a skill. You need to get better at converting the people once they answer the phone. You need to get better at leaving an amazing voicemail or an amazing text message or an outstanding email. There's got to be a way for you to turn it around versus just putting in the grunt work. Find what's going to actually make the difference.
You make a really good point. Go ahead.
I want to add one thing. And Scott and I talk a lot about this on our podcast. It's also having the confidence and conviction behind what you're doing, right? And that's a really important piece, because a lot of times people will know what Scott and I just talked about, Dora, and some of the stuff you talked about, but they lack the confidence and conviction, and they have to remind themselves that they're in sales and they got to build that skill. They got to grow and build that skill set as well.
You guys talk about the growth mindset and the importance of having a growth mindset to take your sales to the next level and grow your sales. Can you guys speak to that? How does that link up to building confidence, and how does that link up to being able to achieve our sales outcomes?
Well, we say if you're not growing, you're dying, right? So you should always be seeking to get better. So you have to find a way to actually increase your business from last month, from last week, from yesterday. How can I be better today than I was yesterday? How can I be better tomorrow than I was today? You have to always be growing and building your business. So by breaking it down and figuring out where your holes are, you said something earlier about sharing your scars. You figure out where you've failed before. You plug those holes, you're going to be able to get that boat a hell of a lot farther.
Yeah, and I would say that you either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. If you have a fixed mindset and you're in sales, get out of sales.
Go get yourself a salary job at the union or something like that. Right?
Or wherever, because if you're not a growth-minded person, that means you're when it comes to sales, you're going to hit a very short ceiling, and it's just you're not gonna ever make the type of money that you want to make.
Yeah, I've often said that sales is like having a personal development course with a compensation plan attached.
Yeah,
because you want to take your income to the next level. It's going to require you to take your mindset and your own self-leadership to the next level. It's going to take you being able to tackle bigger challenges, bigger obstacles, bigger resistance. It means you're going to have to become a bigger person. And that's the coolest thing. It's literally a scoreboard. The more money you make, it's not about the money you made, it's who you've become. Sure, you can buy nice stuff and do cool things and provide for your family at a higher level and have more freedom, and all that's amazing and awesome. But at the end of the day, it's who you've become. You've become a bigger person, a better version of yourself. You've gotten sharper and wiser, and your leadership of yourself and others has ascended to the next level where you look at yourself in the mirror and you feel proud of who you've become. And I think that really speaks to the confidence you're talking about. You can have the best products and services in the world, but if you're showing up with stinking thinking, where you feel inadequate, incompetent, you feel like you're not enough, if you're holding this big heavy monkey on your back from your past, where your mom or your teacher or someone told you you're not enough, you're not good enough, you'll never make it, or you're telling yourself that bullshit, well, how the heck are you going to take your sales to the next level if you're holding on to that crap all day, every day? It's just not going to happen. Can you guys speak to that in terms of how you can get that clutter out of your head and really free yourself up to become all you are called to be? Because it's easy to think it, and it's easy to kind of know that there's something holding one back. You can feel that proverbial glass ceiling. You can feel that you almost have a bungee cord on your belt buckle and you keep springing back to the same place. But it's insidious. It's kind of like this wall that you keep banging up against, but you don't know exactly how to impeach it or change it, or pull that weed up by the root and replace it with the seed of truth that sets you free. Can you guys speak to how you can actually practically liberate oneself from these stinking thinking beliefs that hold us back?
Yeah, sure. I what do they say? The insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important that a salesperson needs to have a very deep level of awareness and know where their shortfalls are. But I think they need to do a couple things. They need to, a couple quick fixes would be, one, I think first and foremost, a lot of salespeople need a sales coach. A lot of salespeople are running major businesses, but they don't look at it as a business, and they need a coach to get them, to help them train and help them grow their business. That's not necessarily a plug for me or you or Scott. It's just a fact. If people want to grow, they need a coach.
That's so true.
Number two, I would say that, a lot of times what I find works for people is when you bookend your days with morning and evening rituals, and you also have some non-negotiables, no more than 3 of everything I just mentioned, and that you start your morning off with rituals that get you rocking and rolling, and you end your day the same way. And it's very important that as you business plan, like I talked about earlier, you always know what your leading, specific, and measurable activities are, your top 3 every single morning for the day. And maybe one of your rituals is that you fine-tune your top 3 leading, specific, and measurable activities for the following day. Every night, you review them every morning, and you attack them every night. But the more specific and measurable you can be in your plan and how you attack your business, the more and the faster you will accelerate your growth. What I find is that salespeople don't really have a plan, and if they have a plan, it's not specific. If it's specific, it's not measurable. They don't like scorecards, accountability. Well, you can't grow if you're not willing to put yourself into that type of world to grow your business. You'll limit yourself at X amount of dollars, and you want to grow. And those are some of the things I think that salespeople need to do to shake up their routine. Fish, what about you?
The biggest sales job that you have is selling yourself. We're in our heads so much, and John, you and I have something we call guyao. We say get out of your own way. And because we tend to actually create our own problems sometimes. And when you're in a sales position, you walk in, you've already had your worst day because you made 0 sales on your first day or when you walked in the door. You didn't have a client, so you actually made 0 sales. It doesn't get worse than that. You've had your worst day. Mm-hmm. But if you got 1 client or 2 clients, the sky's the limit. You can always have a better day. But you've already had your worst. It can't get any worse than what it was that day. So you are on your way. We need to sell ourselves every single morning. Where's my hot list? Where's my next client coming from? Where's my next prospect coming from? How am I going to sell them? What product am I providing? How am I going to solve some problems and change lives today, including my own?
How do you guys get yourself pumped? How do you get yourself conditioned to feel total certainty, total clarity, total confidence, so you really absolutely feel like you can take on the world? You're kicking ass, taking names, chewing bubble gum, you eat problems for frickin' breakfast. Like, how do you own that mindset? How do you condition that mindset daily? Do you guys have a ritual that you do that really builds that muscle?
My ritual is simple. I wake up and I actually know that I'm going to win today. I've done it before. There's no reason I can't do it again.
Is it an affirmation or the visualization, or what is it?
Literally, I pump some music. There's a few songs I listen to daily on the way into the office if I am working the office. If I work from the house, yes, there are daily affirmations in the mirror. Stuart Smalley's to the house. It's got to happen. But I just know. I know in my heart that I've been at the top, and there's no reason I can't be at the top today. Mm-hmm. And then I work. I pick up the phone. I get on the phone with my clients, and I make it happen because I know how good I am at this. I know I've practiced. I know that I've gone through, I've rehearsed. If I had issues, I go through and I work with my coaches. I work with my coworkers, my peers to practice and role play until I know I have this down perfect.
Gotcha. So you have a practice of affirming either in your head or out loud that you're a winner, that you got this, that you have what it takes to be at the top, stay at the top, and continue to climb to higher peaks. So you have, whether you know it or not, you have a certain degree of practice in that. Also gratitude. You may not be where you want to be, but you sure as heck aren't where you were. So you praise the progress and you feel the gratitude. How about you, John? What do you do to cultivate the winning mindset on a daily basis?
For me, the first thing I do every morning when I wake up is I meditate because I want to just quiet my mind. It's very important for me. I quiet my mind. I will many mornings then work out. I wake up before my wife and my kids, and then I'm ready to kind of be upstairs for when my kids are getting ready for breakfast. That whole routine is important for me. And so after that, I am, listening to a book on tape. I'm reading a book. I'm reading something, listening to a podcast every morning on the way to meetings because I always want to stay educated. And I also do my best to kind of write down every morning, a handful of things that I'm grateful for. So it kind of grounds me for the day and puts things in perspective. And then, that's what I do. That kind of just keeps me grounded and focused.
So guys, as you listen to Scott and John, notice there's a theme here. There's a theme of it's not left to accident. It's not left to chance. It's by design. It's not drifting, it's driving. It's not reactive, it's proactive. If you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. And so notice how these guys actually carve out time and are deliberate and intentional about this stuff. It's not by accident. They're not just flying by the seat of their pants hoping that they're going to show up powerfully that day. They actually design the day, start the day to prime the pump so they know. They're not hoping. They know every day they're primed and ready to win. They step up and they condition their mind to win. They're doing gratitudes. They're doing affirmations. They're doing education. They're doing visualization. They're doing the stuff that winners do. It doesn't matter if you want to be a winner. If you're not willing to do what winners do, you ain't going to win. It doesn't matter how much praying you do, how much hoping you do. It doesn't matter if you got your eyes crossed, toes crossed, and fingers crossed. If you're not willing to do what champions do, you won't get what champions get. And it's all about mindset. You see that time and time again. Look at someone like Conor McGregor. He's very, very skilled, but one of the things that separates him from the pack, I'm sure you guys would agree, is the dude is a badass at the mindset stuff. He is rock solid. He sees himself as the champion. He walks like the champion. He talks like the champion. He struts like the champion. I mean, he just owns it from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. And that's what it takes to be a badass in sales. You got to own that you are a champion, that you are a winner, that you're a conduit of contribution, that you can make a difference, that you got this, baby. You got this. Even if it's 100% commission with no safety net, you've got this. I have a mantra when before I get into my cold shower in the morning, which is part of my morning routine. I'm hearing typing in the background, guys, so I don't know if you can mute or not, but one of my favorite affirmations is before I get into the cold shower, which is how one of the ways I condition myself to win is get myself comfortable being uncomfortable. Plus there's some huge health benefits. But at the end of the day, I want to condition myself to be a warrior who, owns what it takes to be a warrior and make highest level results possible by doing the practice. I'll say this before I hop in the cold shower. I'll say, I'm a warrior, I'm a winner, I'm a champion, I'm a dream achiever, I'm a goal crusher. And I have more to my affirmation than that, but I speak that every single day, Monday to Friday, before I get in that cold shower. I'm telling you, now after I do that, after I have some serious shrinkage and I do that affirmation, man, bring any challenge my way. I eat it for frickin' breakfast. If I can do that, I can take on anything. And I think far too often people want to be strong, but they're not willing to go and lift weights. They want to be fit, but they're still, drifting and sitting on the couch watching TV, eating bonbons. So there's a certain amount of grit that it takes to win. Can you guys speak to that in terms of like the grit piece? Because you guys see it. The top dogs, they've got grit. How do you condition grit? Speak to that.
Well, first and foremost, you just have to be willing to put in the work, number one. Kind of like you were speaking to, that you can say, I want to get fit, but you can't just sit on the couch. You've got to go to the gym. You've got to eat right. You've got to actually put in the work to get there. With business and sales, you need to actually work with your coaches. You need to work on your game. You need to stay, okay, I didn't make that sale. What could I have done better? And fix it. You can't be afraid to fail. Fail again, fail again, fail again, but fix it every single time. Figure out what it's going to take to get better and work on it. And don't be afraid to show up every single day and leave it all on the field.
Love it.
Yeah, I think grit is, I think when you're doing what you are meant to be, what you love to do, and you are in full alignment with sales, if you are a salesperson, and realize that you are a salesperson and doing everything that it takes. And if you're not willing to do a lot of the things that we talked about today, then you got to get out of sales or just be happy, being mediocre, because it takes a ton of grit. This is a profession where rejection is 99% of our day, and it's about I loved what you talked about as far as personal development. We got to be growing ourselves. We got to be committed to so many different things, wearing so many different hats, doing so many different things to bring in a sale. That's why salespeople get paid a lot of money. So if you're not willing to do what needs to get done, you're in the wrong profession. And because if it seems difficult, then you're never going to do it. Go find something that's more in alignment with what you can do. Because when you are doing what you're supposed to do, grit is easy.
Amen, brother. Amen. Let's speak to, I think a lot of times salespeople, they get caught in the clutter and they get, distracted by the bright, shiny objects, and they get distracted by what I call trivial many as opposed to the vital few. And you see it so often, especially in 100% commission sales, but even salary plus commission, any kind of sales role. The path of least resistance tends to seduce, and people tend to chew up a lot of time, and they confuse activity with productivity, two totally different things. And they can chew up days and then chew up weeks and have very little results to show for it. And if you look at what they're doing with their time, they're chasing their tail, doing all kinds of bullshit that doesn't really push the needle on profit and performance. And they think they're doing a good job because they're busy, but they're not necessarily being productive. They're focusing on the trivial many as opposed to the vital few. Can you guys speak to that and speak to how a salesperson who really wants to level up dial into the vital few, how to determine what the vital few is, and how to really double down on their rigor in focusing on the vital few that really push the needle on profit and performance at the highest level. Can you guys speak to that?
Yeah, I always say don't confuse busyness for business. And I see a lot of people, especially new salespeople, coming in and they've got these gorgeous spreadsheets of all their prospects and all their leads. And I'm going to call this guy at this time, and I've sent them this email, and it's all color coded. But they're not actually just getting on the phone and working. Do what pays you. Don't just work on something because it's actually, you think it looks good to your boss or whoever else it is. If it's not in my comp plan, I don't want to do it. Plain and simple. Focus on what pays you. Focus on what's getting you to the next level, to the next client. It doesn't matter. You could have the cleanest desk in the world. You could have the messiest desk in the world. I don't care, as long as that desk is allowing you to get the job done. Don't just spend time polishing your sword. Use it.
Well said. Yeah, I think every salesperson, if they want to grow, they need a scorecard, and they need to not only have a scorecard, but like I was talking about earlier, they need to know what their leading and specific measurable activities are on a daily basis that keep them working on their business, not doing the minutia of things in their business. And if you do that, and then on top of that, you have somebody that will hold you accountable, have an accountability partner that will hold your feet to the fire, whether it's a mentor, a coach, a manager, whomever, it doesn't matter, a relative, doesn't matter, but somebody who's going to hold you accountable to do what you say you're going to do and actually do it. It's a very easy business. We let our insecurities get in the way. But the more we recognize what the insecurities are, and if we open ourselves up to, I think Scott was saying earlier, make mistakes, and be okay with that and learn from that, then it goes in line with everything you've been talking about, the grit and everything else. But you got to scorecard what you do, and you got to measure it.
And while you're doing so, block your time as well and get the hell out of email. Emails, the time suck. You can feel busy answering emails, but you're not getting anything done.
Right.
Yeah, you make a really, really, really good point. Actually, several points there I just want to draw out and highlight. One of them is the tracking of metrics. As you said, John, the scorecard. I'm just flabbergasted and amazed how many mortgage professionals in my other business that I run at mortgagemarketingcoach.com, how many mortgage pros don't know their stats. They might know what their income is, but they don't know their stats in terms of how many appointments do they call, how many outbound calls do they make. They might have stats in terms of how much money's in their bank account, but they don't actually have a scorecard around the metrics that drives the end result called their bank account. Yeah. So, instead of looking at the root, they're just poking at the fruit. They're like, oh, I want my income to go up. I want my production to go up. I want my volume to go up. I want my closings to go up. Well, you can poke at the fruit all day long, but until and unless you change the root with what is at the cause of that fruit, you're never going to change the fruit. And it's crazy to me how many salespeople and business people in general, they don't track their KPIs, their key performance indicators. They don't look at, okay, how many appointments do I need to make with realtors if they're a mortgage professional, for example, per week? And how many outbound calls do I need to make to achieve that outcome? And how many clients do I need to talk to have a conversation about referrals or whatever? They just fly by the seat of their pants and just get sucked into the minutia of the day-to-day, putting out fires and working in operations and working in their business instead of on their business. So you make a really good point. Often people think the scorecard is income. That's just one piece of it. The scorecard's also, what are the metrics that actually produce the income? How many conversations do you need to have? How many appointments do you need to have to produce the result you want called income in your bank account? And most people don't really think that through, and then they wonder at the end of the month why there's too much month at the end of the money. I mean, it shouldn't be any accident or any confusion. It's because you're not focusing on the vital few that produces the outcome that you want, which is the money, appointments, calls, conversations, etc. So I love that you guys are, really speaking to metrics, but we got to be clear what metrics matter. And I think a lot of salespeople, they get it very, very misconstrued. So, gentlemen, as we shift gears a little bit here, what would you say is the maybe the top 1, 2, or 3 technology pieces that can save a salesperson a lot of time so they can get out of the minutia with low money making activities that just have them literally be an administrator and move into higher producing activities, rainmaking? Because that's, you mentioned that, Scott. A lot of salespeople, they get sucked into the vortex with email, and that's a very prime example how people waste an inordinate amount of time with stuff that really isn't rainmaking. So do you guys have any tips or tricks in terms of technology or ways to get out of the low income producing activities to get into the rainmaking, high income producing activities?
Well, I think it's really important for salespeople to have a CRM, whether it be Salesforce or anything that they're using to not only track their leads, but activity and future calls and take some notes. It amazes me how many people use Excel to do that. And, you need a CRM. You need to choose one calendar, and you need to have a really robust to-do list where you understand what needs to be done and hopefully prioritize it so you're not just, doing a lot of, in your business cleanup stuff and never getting to your business. I happen to love Todoist. I think it's a great app. But also, like Scott was talking about, blocking your calendar is really important. Block your calendar to do business development every single day is probably the most critical, because people put that on the back burner, and we're salespeople. We need to do business development every day, and make an appointment with yourself and make sure that you're actually doing it and doing the important things you got to do to grow your business every single day. I think the key is, in summary, use the technology to allow your business to grow, and then do what you need to do every single day. And if every day that you don't do it, it just prolongs your success X amount of weeks.
There you go. I have one technology piece that is just, you have to use it. If you're not using it, you're just a fool. And that's SMS messaging, text messaging. Mm-hmm. If you look at your phone bill nowadays, look at how many phone calls you actually made on your cellular device in your pocket versus how many text messages you sent and received. Clients and customers will answer a text message. They don't leave them unanswered. Their phone, they will send a voicemail, and they don't listen to voicemail. A text message they always read. It's quick, it's easy, they can respond to it. Or they could just respond stop, which is fine too. If I'm bothering you and you're not going to move forward with me, don't let me waste my time either. So hit me up with that stop button. But they will more than likely answer you a hell of a lot faster than they do with a phone call or an email. So utilize the text messaging more than anything else these days. While it's still there, it's hot. Of course, maybe it might lose its luster once these telemarketers start texting us 15 times a day, but for now it's working, so use it.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I love that tip. And I love using the curiosity evoking, John, you there? As the first text. And of course, you're responding and you're thinking, who the hell is this, right? So you're going to respond and say, yeah, who is this? Now you got the conversation going. Versus, John, did you still want to buy XYZ product? Well, you're just going to ignore me, right? So
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, you just tantalize them with hey, John, you there? And then you get the ball rolling from there. I always like to keep the conversation really, exactly that, conversational, like you're talking to a friend. The best way to repel people is to come off like a salesperson, talking all stiff and polished and professional and salesy. You want to trigger the buyer defense mechanism. Just start talking like a salesperson, and they're going to run. Commission breath halitosis. Yeah. So the one thing I would add to the technology tips conversation while we're on it is a scheduling software. Like Schedule Once or Calendly or something like that. I use Schedule Once. I love it. One of the things that has multiplied my income faster than anything else is I found a way to get more quality prospects in front of me and fill my calendar with more quality prospects on autopilot with a scheduling software like Schedule Once. So I'll just literally, I have a system that fills my calendar with quality prospects, and it lines it up pretty much on autopilot for me. And then I just show up and enroll. I mean, I'm enrolling all day. And instead of messing around doing email and crap like that, that's like $10, $20 per hour activities, I'm doing like $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 per hour activities. I mean, you can only imagine when you start filling your calendar with that kind of potently profitable, high concentration of quality conversations with quality prospects, you can't help but have your income skyrocket. Have you guys found that to be true?
Yes, I use a software that we've built at our company that will not only track all of our appointments, it sets our appointments up for us. It will give you the information. You have notes of what you talked to the client last time. You have you know what time you contacted the client. Like if I called the client at 2:00 3 days in a row, why would I call them again at 2:00 the next time if they haven't picked up before? So you want to make sure you're doing it right. And yes, a calendar software, something like that, definitely is super helpful.
Game changer. So a few key themes I want to drive home, guys, before we wrap up. One is plan your work your plan. Okay, so block schedule your vital few activities. Block schedule the 1, 2, or 3 activities that push the needle the most. Start your day off right. Go to bed earlier, wake up earlier, prime the pump, do mindset work, education, visualization, affirmations. Get yourself on point before you start the day. Start your day with a miracle morning. And then the other piece is get your technology on point. Get your technology on point so you can be spending more of your time with high quality prospects and less of your time paper pushing and being in, the drudgery of minutia. That ain't going to get you paid. And the other piece we talked about is you need to make sure you have a game plan. So when you're having a conversation, what's the game plan? Do you have a script? Do you have a sequence? Do you have a syntax? If you don't have a game plan, how are you going to win? How do you win a war if you have no strategy? You're just going to be slayed. You might as well just show up and let yourself get sprayed by bullets if you're not going to have an effective strategy. So what's your strategy? What's your game plan? What's your outcome? Do you even have a script? Go for mastery. Don't be a dabbler, be a master. Dabblers get mediocre results. Masters get extraordinary results. So this has been awesome, guys. Some really, really huge themes and points here. How can people reach out to you, get more of your awesomeness, and go deeper with you?
If they want to reach out to me, they can. For the 7-minute sales minute, that email. That website is. I'm like a blank right now. I don't ever really go to the website.
You can find the website. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all those places. But you can also just go to 7minutesalesminute.com. You can also stop by my website and see not only my books, but also the podcast is hosted on both of our websites. My website is 30minutesalescoach.com.
And my website is jondwoskin.com. My book and all my services of what I do are on my website as well.
And who needs to remember websites when you got Scott rolling with you, right, John? He's got it all in his head. You get good to go. Or you are weak, he is unique, and vice versa. So it's all good.
Right.
That's the ingredients for a dynamic duo, right? As long as you got them in your back pocket, you're good to go. I'm the same way. I'm like, what's that website again? Oh, I need my assistant, my ops manager. Where is she at? So, that's awesome. So, guys, I just want to thank you. I salute you. I appreciate you for, all that you're doing to serve salespeople to their greatness and to weed out the misconceptions and erroneous beliefs and mistakes and myths that are holding a lot of salespeople back. We've just scratched the surface of the surface, obviously, today. So I'd encourage you guys who are listening to check them out and dive deeper with John and Scott. I know if you dig this, you're going to love all the goodness they got in store for you as you go deeper with them. So, again, thanks, Scott. Thanks, John. This has been great.
Thank you, Doran.
Thank you, Doran. Appreciate being on the show. It was great.
Hey, my pleasure. So thanks, guys, for watching and listening. I guess this is in pure audio, so if you're visual, you're watching it. If you're auditory, you're listening. And if you're kinesthetic, you're feeling it. So whatever way you're tuning in, thank you for connecting with us. Thanks for being with us for another episode of the Local Domination Podcast, your ultimate guide to getting local clients fast. So if tips galore that help you soar is what you adore, know this, we got more in store. Remember, nothing happens without implementation. So in the meantime, in between time, go forth, engage. It's time for Operation Domination.